Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with Gus. I'm your host, former NFL quarterback Gus Frerotte, and welcome to the new 1631 Digital News Studio. You know, some people say, no news is good news. Well, I say to those people, you've never read 1631digitalnews.com. Go to 1631digitalnews.com to get your latest news, sports, music, and entertainment. And maybe even listen to your favorite podcast, Huddle Up with Gus. Check it out today at www.1631digitalnews.com.
Huddle Up with Gus is brought to you by Vegas Sports Advantage. Clients of Vegas Sports Advantage are winning big in 2021, and you can be a part of the winning too. As of June 1st, $100 bettors are up $3,700. $500 bettors are up $18,500, and $1,000 bettors are up $37,000, and $5,000 bettors are up $185,000. Become a client today by clicking the link in the description below and use promo code HUDDLEUP to take 25% off your package today, thanks to our partnership.
Welcome to what surely will be a doozy of a matchup right here, sports fans. Whether your game is on the gridiron, at the diamond, or on the links, we can only say, welcome to this week's Huddle Up with Gus. 15-year NFL quarterback Gus Frerotte, passion for sports, has taken him on the field and behind the benches, playing for 7 NFL franchises with 114 TDs under his belt. Gus knows who the players are and how the games are won.
It's not every day you get to hang out with an NFL quarterback, huh?
Okay, sports fans, from the decked out and plush 1631 digital studios, it's kickoff time. So snap your chin straps on and get ready to huddle up with Gus.
Strange variety, but again, a big play to Leslie.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with Gus. I'm your host, 15-year NFL quarterback Gus Frerotte. Hey, I want to thank 1631 Digital News for hosting us in the studio again. As you can see, we're not in the studio, but they do all of our producing and engineering. So I want to thank 1631 Digital News for that. I want to thank our team, Brian and Terry, and I want to thank Sounder FM for hosting us on their platform. We also want to thank Vegas Sports Advantage for coming on and working with us. And if you want to win some real money in betting, I'm not good at it because I don't think I ever win at anything, especially betting. But go to Vegas Sports Advantage. Those guys are great. They'll improve your odds. They'll help you, and hopefully you can win some cash and put it in your wallet. Today's guest I'm really excited about. But before we get to that, I had we've been doing this thing where our fans have been asking us questions. So I got a question from Jacob Julius. Jacob is out of Katanning, Pennsylvania. And he wants to know what's the greatest athlete I've ever played with. That's hard because, there's so many incredible people that I've played with in the NFL over 15 years and 7 teams. And just seeing guys do some amazing things on the practice field, in a game, seeing it in the weight room, just incredible people and what they can do. And my jaw was always dropping. But I will say this, I did see Dante Culpepper walk on his hands for about 30 yards one time. And he and Randy Moss used to have incredible competitions where they throw $100 down and they would have all these crazy things they would do. And I saw Dante beat Randy in a 40-yard dash. I saw Dante walk on his hands for 25 yards. But my man was a credible athlete. He was a lot of fun. So I would say that was definitely one of the guys. For a big guy, he was definitely an incredible athlete. So joining us today is a guy that's played in the league for a long, long time. Was a safety, was my nemesis on the other side of the ball. Went to Alabama. They have him as growing up as a Navy brat or is it a military brat or an Air Force? I don't know where you were, George, but you were in Kansas, then you moved to Alabama. But I always hated that term that you were a brat because I know you weren't a brat because if you were a brat, your dad would have put you in your place. So joining me today is George Teague. He has a great podcast out called Teague's Take, and he does it with his son, JT.
You froze there a second, Gus, but okay. Keep going. Could you repeat that list a little bit?
Yeah. Hey, where did I stop at?
Just as military brat, and your dad was taking care of you.
Can you hear me, George?
Yes, I got you.
Okay. No, I was just saying, like, I hate the term brat, right? They always say these guys are military brats. And when I was doing some research on you, and I'm like, I'm sure that if George was any kind of brat, his dad would have been like, you weren't out of place at all, right? And then you guys moved around. I think you were in Kansas, moved to Alabama, and then the rest is history. But, I was just saying that you were my nemesis out there. You were the guy that was on the other side of the ball reading me, and I was the one watching you. So it was pretty cool, and I'm really excited to talk to you today. How are you doing?
Well, I appreciate it. I'm doing well. I'm coaching high school football now in Texas. I did grow up as a military brat, I guess as we would call it. My dad served in the Air Force. For 25 years or so. So I grew up pretty much all of my, youth on an Air Force base up until the time I got to high school in Alabama. Then that was my first time actually living off base once I got to 10th grade, essentially. So that was a little bit different for me, but I loved growing up the way that we did as well. And I got to say, also, when you were talking about some of the best people that you had ever played with, or most athletic person that you played with, I'm glad you brought in Randy Moss. It's a great story about Culpepper, but I really eventually went to Randy Moss, I guess just because I was in the secondary and the scare that we had when he was out there.
Yeah, Culpepper wasn't running by you.
Yeah, so that didn't intimidate me as much, but just seeing what that guy and others could do. There's so much talent in that football league and guys that we've played with, being on multiple teams. It is very hard to try to find, one person you could say is the most.
Yeah, you can't really do it. I mean, you've seen some incredible feats by people, right? Like you've seen some amazing things happen in the practice field and everywhere else. But to name just one person as the greatest athlete, my favorite thing always was, George, is that I would get in arguments with other professional athletes from other sports, and they would try to talk like they're the best athletes. Like most of the time, I think it may be the only one that could compete with us is basketball.
Right.
But I always like, come on, there's no way. Like football is definitely the best athletes out there.
Well, we are, and I'm saying that selfishly, but I think you have to look at how many true football players, if I can say it that way, true football players that actually can do multiple sports versus the other way around. When you look at the Deons, the Bo Jacksons, many of people that can do baseball and football, Russell Wilson. These are athletic guys that were there and then opted to play football. I mean, that makes you incredible. There's a lot of basketball players that can't play basketball or football. There's a lot of soccer players that can't play, so we're definitely, when you have the makeup of being a National Football League player, there are some dudes that are just amazing and can be good at everything. Probably like how you're good at golf. I don't know if you're a good golfer. I'm
okay. I'm okay.
I'm not.
I'm like a 10 handicap. I'm just okay.
So if you're not very good, what's the highest handicap you can have?
I don't know. Like, if you shoot 100 every round, that'd be like a 28 handicap.
All right. Well, I'm gonna take a 31 handicap. That was my jersey number 2.
Well, it's not for me. Golf is just like, I don't work at it. If you want to be great and unbelievable, you got to be out there and practice all the time. I love just being out and going to play and laughing and having a good time. And, sometimes you get to compete against some good buddies, put some money on the line or whatever. But most of the time I go out with my sons now, and we have just a blast.
No, I haven't figured out the golf endurance. I know we're not running and all that, but 4 hours or longer out on the course, You give me about
well, that's where the swing oil comes in to play, George. You need a little swing oil to get you through, to keep your engine nice and lubricated the whole way through. So that's what gets you through 4 hours of golf. Especially, you probably played a bunch of, when you play in those golf tournaments, like the pro, with charity events and all that, and then all of a sudden they're like 6 hours. Man, you're just wore out at the end of those.
That's right. That's right. And hey, I see your producer said that 54 is a max handicap that you can have. So I'm definitely higher than a 31, I believe. I do like to golf, but I really got, speaking of the charity things, I tend to go, put me on one hole, let me putt or let me drive or whatever it is, and not necessarily play the whole thing, so I can see everybody, talk to everybody, and then I can really get good at the green if I shoot the same green.
Yeah, then you know where the ball, where you got to putt it, where you got to chip it, whatever. Yeah, I hear you there. So George, when you're growing up in the military, I know a bunch of people that there's a good friend of mine, Ron Coder. He played in the NFL here. He's older. He actually grew up on a military base in Japan and played football over there, and then came over here and went to Penn State. But tell me about what it was like playing sports on the military base.
It was I want to say different in the sense of, you knew everybody right from the beginning, because the bases tend to be smaller kind of classes and people. You pretty much did everything. So I grew up playing really every sport: baseball, basketball, football. You just went from one rec team to the next because your parents were trying to keep you involved. As well. So that was kind of cool. And I was being coached by my dad because, it wasn't like you were dealing with some of the fortunate and blessed today. We were being taught by military personnel, on the base. So it was cool because I was around, my dad a lot with that. The one thing that I don't think I mentioned this to you before we talk about, my one super highlight, I would say, is that I actually played on a German soccer team when we were stationed in Germany for 4 years. I was good enough to be able to play on a German soccer team. So that really opened my eyes as far as, we were in their culture already, but trying to be on a team where I was really kind of the minority, most of them.
Right.
Which I was trying to learn how to communicate with them and play and learn their systems. As a, fifth grader, sixth grader, it was fun, but it was super challenging because that was when I really had to get off the base, and start to deal with people in a different way. Yeah.
Then you kind of feel what it's like to be different, right? That you're over there and you got to fit in, and I think that's pretty cool. Like, but you said you were young. But when we're young, we adapt so fast. Like, well, how do you think you would adapt now if, like, you had to go over there now and be in that same situation? Would it be way harder?
I think it would be a lot harder in this day, especially if I wasn't on the base. I think that was an advantage for me personally, just because I was always exposed to different things and people and, moving. It was just kind of the way of life, and it wasn't something, it was just what we did. So you had to make friends, you had to fit in, you had to, just what we did. So going from team to team or city to city or country to country, whatever it was, it just made me a different person. So even when I got in the National Football League and you get drafted by one team and you get traded to another and then you get cut and then you go to another team, whatever, it didn't feel weird.
Abnormal, yeah.
In a sense, it was like, you're just going to another place and you dive in, you fit in, and you get in.
So did your dad, like, you guys moved a bunch? I know the military people move a lot. Do you still have friends from those times? So your parents still haven't talked to those people that they were on the base with, or do you kind of just move on because you're moving around so much?
No, it's unbelievable how many friends I have from youth that we either reconnected some kind of way, whether it's social media or something, because, we all had that kind of struggle. There's this family that really I just reconnected with because when I was in third grade, I remember clearly this girl's dad that always would whistle, super loud. I was just amazed about this whistle, but that was his way of saying, you got to bring your butt home and get to the house right now. And I mean, that's a little thing, right? But it's something that was really impressionable on me. And we kind of have that connection as military families because we're all having to move and leave each other. And so we're always trying to find out, hey, I wonder where they went or what they do. And our parents tend to really be in touch with their parents and then therefore ask the question. So it's really cool. I think it's like a fraternity almost.
Yeah.
Like reunions. I bet we probably could have Air Force Base reunions if someone would ever think about it, because it probably would be pretty cool to go back and see the people we grew up with.
Right. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. So you were in Kansas for a while, right? I think your dad was stationed in Kansas at the Air Force Base there. And then how old were you when you finally kind of moved? Was it like high school age to Alabama?
I was in Kansas and middle school. And then I moved to Alabama for high school. Yes. So I would have been going in my ninth grade year, middle of my ninth grade year, we moved to Alabama. I ended up going to school at a school called Jeff Davis High School in Montgomery, Alabama. There was an Air Force base there called Maxwell Air Force Base. So my dad was stationed there, but we lived off base.
And that was your first time living off base, right?
Yeah, it was my first time living off base.
What was the difference between being off base and being on, like, no gates to go through, nobody checking on you all the time? Was it way better for you?
Gus, it was probably one of the hardest times of my life for multiple reasons. And if I could share, one, it was my first time being off base. But we ended up moving into a predominantly black neighborhood, which was, it's not bad. It was different. We always had a mixture of people.
Right.
And at my age at that time, and being in Alabama, they had these a state rule that was called the majority-minority rule, right, which was a time where integration was still trying to happen. So where I lived at, remember I said I was in a predominantly black neighborhood, I was bused all the way across the city to go to white school.
Yeah.
Essentially. It's kind of weird to be talking about that, right?
Right.
But that's really how I was. And so that was, that was troubling for me just because I didn't understand, why are we going through, I'd never really been experienced with racism or trying to fit in or in that type of way. And that was the hardest part because you had basically two different worlds. Why you got white friends, are you too black or whatever it is. And you live all the way across town. So trying to go see friends, somewhere else, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So it was a really challenging time for me emotionally, I think, because I didn't understand racism. It just was not in our DNA.
So on the military bases, you didn't really experience any of that. Like everybody's just, we're all military. We're just together. Right. And then you get out there and you're like, what is this stuff? Like that had to be really emotional for you.
The military is like our football teams, the way I put it. We're all in there for the same goal.
Yeah.
Right. It didn't matter what color we were or whatever. We want to win games. We want to win Super Bowls, and all you did was rely on the coaching staff and the people that were next to you to do what they were supposed to do. And you didn't care whether or not they were white, black, Mexican, Asian, whatever it is. That's where the military was. They were serving their country, and it didn't matter what religion you were, what color you were. We all had the same goal. For the country, and so that's the way it always had been for me until that time when it wasn't, and then you started seeing different things or hearing different words. So it became really, really as people see it, well, you got to go to University of Alabama. You got, you go to win a national championship. Yeah. But it took a little different type of work ethic, I guess, from that sense of overcoming some of the other things that I had to overcome. Yeah.
So did you ever truly experience some really terrible racism, like where you had, because I can never imagine what it's like to walk in your shoes, but I think to give people an understanding of, here's a guy that played in the NFL, was at the top of his game, And there probably was a moment in your life where you were kind of nervous, right? That this racism is real.
Yes, because I have experienced very specific things in the South from, as much as we say getting pulled over specifically because, it was African American and whatnot. That happened to me. I was actually driving a motor coach. We used to have this little camper kind of thing as well. And got pulled over because the mud flap was a quarter of an inch too short. Now, I don't know how anybody knows that when they're driving around and looking at the thing. And so you can't help but go, and then it's, everybody out, who you got in the deal. Like, bro, really, was a speeding, whatever? No, you got this, so when you're profiled, you can see that.
Right.
When I've been not allowed into a restaurant or a bar, and, it's on purpose, where it's allowing other people to come in. Everybody goes, there's a wait. How long is the wait? 20 minutes. And, you see people come up after you and you're bypass. And after a while you kind of go, man, now come on now. And it just, it hurts you because you don't want people, judging you just by the color of your skin, especially.
Right. No. Yeah, definitely. Is that something that you could talk to your parents about?
It was, but it still was difficult because now you have to think of the generation that my parents came from, where my dad actually had to pick cotton and actually couldn't drink out of the water fountain, and so it was still, even though it was growth, and because he had the military piece, I wasn't raised that way to think like that, which I think is amazing considering what my folks had to go through, before he got to the military. But he really just preached and talked to me about work ethic and not worrying about that stuff. You got to be a good person. My mom was about charity. You got to help people. You got to help them change. You got to be charitable. You got to give money, and these type of things. And so they really shifted everything that, you got to go all the way over here to this other school, but network, meet people, do something different. You got to get over there. We'll drop you off or ride your bike, man. Get there and do what you need to do. Just be smart, get educated, and, it'll all work out. I'm just trying to kind of give our audience that we always talk about transitions and hard things and adversity in our life, right? That was adversity for you, things that you were talking about, and still you go on to be an incredible athlete and play in the NFL. And that's what I tell kids all the time too, is that, look, you're going to have a roadblock, or there's something that you don't like, or something that bothers you, and you got to find a way around it, over it, under it, whatever it is, and just keep moving forward. And you may not be happy, you may not like it, but it's there for a reason. It's teaching you something, learn from it and move on. Yes, and I 100% agree. And to all your listeners and any parents that are dealing with kids, or if there are any children who are listening, to be successful, you do have to do exactly what he's saying. You're going to have some obstacles if you're going to be successful. If you're just looking for the easy path, then you're just going to be over there on that road with the average or less than average person. Because if we're not faced with adversity, then we're not necessarily progressing. Some people shy away from that adversity, but that's how we get, better. And we have to figure out things. We got to lean on people. We got to learn. We got to try to figure out what's the best strategy to move past those things. And it could be something like what we're talking about, or it could be an injury, or
it could be anything.
Teacher that don't like you or whatever. And you got,
we all had those things, death in the family, all that stuff, right? We've all dealt with all those types of things, and you just got to it's tough, and you go through it. And hopefully you have some good support. Sounds like you had some really good support in your time with your parents. And that they really helped you through things. They pushed you in the right direction. They gave you good advice. So when you say go home and you say, "Hey, Mom and Dad, I'm going to go to Alabama," what was the reaction? What were did they help you with that decision, or was that all you?
The decision to Alabama was mine. They were all very happy. We were Alabama fans and not necessarily Auburn fans, so I did take the Auburn as well. But again, because we weren't there, I didn't have that emotional attachment to say, "Man, I'm out," that I'm going to grow up and I want to go play for the Crimson Tide. That wasn't even it, because I didn't know where I was going to be. And the only reason I was there, Gus, is so even when we got to Alabama, my dad was actually restationed the 2 years, so it would have been my junior year.
Yeah.
To Turkey.
Oh, wow.
Turkey. And so that was another decision that had to be made of, okay, where is George going to graduate from? If he goes to Turkey, he's going to have to graduate at a Turkish school or on a military base or whatever it is, or we're going to go split family. And that's what my parents decided to do. So my mom stayed back stateside. He went over so that I could finish high school.
Wow.
In Alabama. Yeah. So it was. Now I can tell you this though. I'll give you a good story about that though. What was the good thing about it was, so I don't know if Tulsa went to any bowl games or whatnot, but you get those bowl checks when you have to travel.
Yeah.
Or whatnot. Well, my residency was listed in Turkey.
Yeah. Alabama's like, what? You gotta write a check for how much?
Yeah. So to get back to Turkey, I was like, "Hey man, it's my daddy." We had all the papers and all that kind of stuff. I was like, I don't live in Montgomery. I live in
Turkey. It's 11,000 miles away. That'll be $2 a mile. And that's how George got his first car.
Booyah.
So what was your first car?
That was kind of fun. My first that I bought a Ford Probe. I don't know if anybody would ever.
Wait, was it a stick shift?
Yes, it was a stick shift. I had to redline that thing as much as possible.
They're like front wheel drive machines, those Ford Probes.
Yep, that was my very first car that I actually purchased. That would have been right after my senior year, right before I got drafted. I actually
think what we just said. I said, "Did you drive a stick shift?" And you said, "Yes." Nobody says that today. I don't think they make cars with stick shifts anymore.
No. Well,
unless you're a trucker.
Anyway, yeah, they don't know how to drive them anyway.
Oh man, I learned. I used to take this kid's car at Tulsa. Bubba was from Oklahoma. He had a stick shift. I said, "Bubba, let me borrow your car. Can you drive a stick?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I didn't know how to drive. Me and this kid from Philadelphia, his nickname was Fishhead. So Fishhead and I would take his car. We taught each other how to drive a stick on Bubba's car. And we'd bring it back, and Bub be like, "How'd it go?" We were like, "Oh, it was great."
Clutch all torn up.
Oh, my God. Clutch was slipping. And he's like, "What's wrong with my car?" I don't know. But that's how I learned to drive a stick. It wasn't from my dad. Oh, there you go. I like it.
That's a great one. And mine was black. I didn't have the purple one. So for y'all to view, it was not a purple one. I was not flash. I wasn't from Florida, so I didn't go with purple.
Yeah.
Yellow.
Well, I had my first car was a Camaro, 1977 Camaro Z28.
Oh, that is bad.
I paid $900 for it. You can't get anything for $900 now.
No, so in high school, the car that I had to drive, why I really considered it an upgrade, because I also drove a Mercury Zephyr, the ZEPHY.
Yeah.
It was a 4-door, terrible car, but that's what the parents had bought for me, and I was happy to have it. But you know what? It didn't have a reverse, so I was driving to school. Here I am, this big-time football player, right, trying to get all this stuff done. And I had to strategically, I had to get to the school at the right time so I could pull all the way through so that
you could.
I could pull out. And
so what would happen if you had to go back up? You just put it in neutral and push it?
I got a really strong left leg.
and my best buddy was a 300-pound lineman. And his nickname was Reverse. Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah. Ooh, look at that baby. Yes.
Oh man, is that a Zephyr?
Yeah, but I didn't have that one. It didn't look like that.
Yeah, that one has Reverse. You didn't have that one. Yeah, you didn't have Reverse. So you're at Alabama, right? You've been through a lot in your life. You've faced all kind of adversity, moving around, and you go to this school that has a lot of history. And that's one thing, like, Tulsa has history, but not like Alabama's football history. Like, how did that kind of hit you? Like when you walk in there and, I mean, there's just such history that hits you in the face when you go into Alabama.
Yes, it did. And I know I was blessed to be able to get there. And this goes into our theme of our story here, I guess, because my first year there, so I didn't get redshirted. I was one of two people who did not get redshirted as freshmen. So when I came in, it was all business. I went to school, I went to football practice, and that was kind of it, Did well in class, and I was overwhelmed with everything we had. Bill Curry was my coach at the time.
Right. He was,
kind of Paul Bryant, Bear Bryant-ish kind of dude in the tower, microphone, and it was just like, man, this is Bama, this kind of thing. Well, after my freshman year, they got fired. So my coaching staff was gone. And that's, another form of adversity that I felt like I'd hit then. Because I'm like, oh, gosh, who's coming in? They're going to
right.
Guys. What are we going to do? Blah, blah, blah. And I was terrified about that. Didn't matter that it was Alabama. I just knew at that point it was, now we got a new coaching staff. And we know how people, go after their own people. So, I kind of went in a slump there for a minute just because, I still played well. I ended up starting. But it was I think I'm saying this to others, is that goes into the mindset of what you could have. It was very easy for me to go, oh, man, I need to transfer. I need to leave. Coach is gone. I don't know what's going in, like maybe what could happen today, new collegiate rules. But that wasn't even really the option. It was, I went to Alabama because, one, I wanted to graduate from there. And two, I believed in everything they told me about the networking, the good football, the education,
Yeah.
And so I said, well, I'm going to stay here and I'm just going to grind it out and try to win this spot, again. And so did work out. Obviously, that I ended up playing that year. But that was another tough time for me, sophomore, junior year, just trying to make sure I was their guy.
Yeah, it's never easy. It's never easy. That's for sure. Hey, everyone. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but we're talking with George Teague. We're going to come back, and I want to hear about how he transitioned from corner to safety, because I have a good friend that I coached that plays for the Falcons, how to transition from corner to linebacker. So I want to talk to George a little bit about that, but we'll be right back. Huddle Up with Gus listeners, Manscaped, they sent me, they hooked me up with a bunch of tools and formulations for their package 3.0 kit. So, I want to show you guys what's in the perfect package, right? We all think we got a perfect package, but they sent me the perfect package 3.0 kit. I want to show you what they sent me. So it was crazy. It came in this great box, and you can see what it says. They will thank you, because they send us this awesome trimmer. They sent us, stuff that makes you smell better. And then, they sent me this great, some boxers even, which you get, right? Protect them. And then, they sent me this cool sack, I guess you want to call it, to store all your stuff in. So it's been great. Manscaped sent me a bunch of product. You can see it all on here. You can go to manscaped.com and put in the code Gus Frerotte. That's GUS FREROTTE. get 20% off and free shipping when you use that code. But you can get a kit. You can get individual items like this way cool groomer that has a little LED light, ceramic. These things come apart. They're waterproof. You can do a lot with them. So, Manscaped is great. It's funny. I remember when I was playing with the Denver Broncos, and I'm not going to mention any names, but there was a gentleman who was playing on our team. And, if he ever hears the story, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But he brought his own clippers in one time, and he used it to trim his beard up and his goatee and everything. And he had them there for about 2 or 3 weeks. And he goes in around the corner, he walks in, and there's another player that is actually manscaping with his beard trimmer. So, one of the things is you don't want to use the same trimmer down there that you use up here. So he kind of freaked out a little bit, and he said, "Hey, how long have you been using that tool there?" And he said, "Well, it showed up here about 3 weeks ago, and I've been using it ever since." So, there is a lesson learned that, don't leave things out. And probably if it would have just said Manscaped on it, we wouldn't have had that issue. But it's probably one of the funniest taking care of your balls stories I've ever heard or been around in the locker room in the NFL. So it's a great story. But I always said there was no way to know. There was no name on it, and the guy was just using it, and another guy was using it. It was not good, but it's a heck of a funny story. So one of the best I've ever heard in my 15 years playing in the league. But there's so many great things about Manscaped and what they're doing. Because guys, you got to take care of yourself. Even though I got gray hair and getting older, but you still have to maintain some sort of grooming, right? And so, we all work out. For me, I like working in my yard, doing those things now that I'm retired, getting a little sweat on and everything. You want to smell good. You got to take care of yourself. They got some great products. This one, a little ball deodorant. We all need that here and there. After, working in the yard, taking a hike, doing a walk, whatever you do, it's a great thing. But there's so many great products. I want to thank Manscaped for sending them to me. The Lawnmower 3.0, obviously, you can use it anywhere in your body, but I'm sure you guys have all seen the commercials. But this is one just letting you know that the Lawnmower 3.0 comes with the perfect kit. You can buy the lawnmower by itself. You can buy all these products individually. They even sent me this wonderful shirt. And you can see the back. Your balls will thank you. And then here's the front. So it's an awesome shirt. They have great gear. And you know what? Sometimes you can just sit back, take care of your balls a little bit, and read the paper. So I think Manscaped even has their own daily news, which is great. So don't forget that you can go to the code Gus Frerotte, and that's GUSFREROTTE, and you can save 20% on any products. The perfect package gift set, and you can save 20% and get free shipping. So use the code Gus Frerotte, GUSFREROTTE. Hey, everybody spells my name wrong. They even spelled it wrong in the back of my Pro Bowl jersey. So, I gotta help you guys out. So don't forget how important it is that you use these products. Take care of yourself down below and have some fun. All right. There's nothing closer to you than your little buddies. So use the lawnmower. Use the code Gus Frerotte, save 20% and get free shipping, and order some great Manscaped products. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Huddle Up with Gus podcast. I'm your host, Gus Frerotte. We're talking with George Teague today, but I also want to remind you that you can check us out at 1631 Digital News. You can check us out on sounder.fm, and you can find our new partner Vegas Sports Advantage. So check them out, and hopefully you can go win some money there. But we're talking with George. George, I want to know really, because it's very interesting. I think the transition from safety or from corner to safety is not easy, because it seems like corner you're doing a lot of backpedaling one-on-one, where safety you're back there and you're reading. Was that a hard change for you?
Honestly, I'm going to say it probably wasn't as difficult as it could be, because I always made sure I knew what everybody was doing, even when I played corner,
Yeah.
And so I think that's really why they moved me into the safety position, because one, I was already physical enough, and two, I kind of knew how to line everybody up already. So it was a natural piece for me to be a signal caller on the defense. Now, physically, it changed what I had to do in the mindset that you got to have, because now you're, looking at B gaps and C gaps and stopping the run, and depending on what it is, you had to drop down on, something of that nature. That was that is probably the hardest part for a corner to have to try to move into the safety, is the run game, the feeling of runs, or being in the middle of the field, where corners, you're always outside, your angles of tackle are limited.
Right.
But as safety, now you got more space. So there's a lot of work that you have to do there that makes it kind of difficult to go in. I know the NFL now, they kind of move older guys into the safety position.
Right. Yeah. Switch them around a little bit. Yeah. We've seen that with other, like Rod Woodson, Charles Wood, like they've all moved a little bit. But tell me, who was the running back for you that when you watch a film this week and you were saying, I don't know, Coach, I think cover 2 looks pretty good. I don't feel like filling that B gap when he's coming through there.
Well, I'm going to answer this from the pro level first, and then I'll tell you the college one. But this is easy for me in the professional level. There's no way I ever wanted to tackle Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
So
you didn't want to be on the highlight.
No, sir. I wanted to be away from him as much as possible. So I know I gave linebackers and defensive linemen a lot of incentives to make sure they didn't get into the secondary, or that he didn't get into the secondary.
Right.
I didn't want to be on that.
That dude was amazing.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, I missed him a few times. And, I shoestring tackled him once. We were in Detroit. I was playing with the Packers at the time.
Right.
We're playing quarters. So I got to see gap. They run that stretch all the time. That was their deal, right? I'm sure you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And he shoots through the C gap, and here I am, 10 yards away from him, 12 yards away from him. My heart is just going, right? So everything we worked on was don't dance with him. It's one-on-one. You're probably going to miss. We got it. You just got to take your shot. That was our coaching from the coaches. Just take your shot. Hope for the best. This kind of thing. So what do? Here he comes. He's running. I took my shot, Gus. Now, I think I hit the little plastic tip on his shoelace. And so I'm on the ground, and I'm looking, and because he's stumbling. Boom, 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 boom. He falls down. Gus, I got up and cheered like we won the Super Bowl. I'm on my face and everything out there. I'm like, really, George?
Yeah, really. You see all the highlight tapes making people look stupid? I mean, yeah, I hear you, man. That is good. Because I think, like, you were a hitter. I think with the big guys, like, contact, like knowing they're coming at me, it was probably okay for you. It was more of those guys like Barry that, you know,
so
I'm going to give you that and go the other way. And
yeah, so a lot of times when people would ask me, because once I moved into safety, we still had to play man-to-man on those slot guys.
Yeah.
If they didn't have a tight end in the game or something. And that was – so I was always more afraid of the smaller, shifty type guys that, really could embarrass you. I'd rather have a cover Michael Irvin, who was, big.
Right.
And you can get your hands on it. I'd rather fight with him. Sterling Sharps, even Chris Carter, those type of dudes where, I'd rather be up in their face. And these guys, I'd rather do that because if I could bang and put my shoulder pads on you and get down close enough to the line of scrimmage or press, I always felt like I could win.
Yeah.
The guys that couldn't. Joey Galloway's and Rocket Ishmael's and all these other dudes, man, I really – well, even Randy Moss. I mean, he was big too, but his speed was just –
yeah, it's great. Well, I would think that – and the game has changed from when we played too, even more. Back probably when we first came in, it was still a lot of run game, power, football, you know what I mean? And – because that's like you think about Moose Johnson kicking out Emmitt Smith and I mean that was what it was back in the old Redskins, John Riggins, like all that. Now it's like 5 wides all the time.
RPOs, baby.
How RPOs.
How you went to the Pro Bowl. You know how many Pro Bowls you went to with this RPO stuff that you had 3 reads on every play. So,
well, there was a highlight up of Moss the other day, and he commented on it since I follow Randy. And it was everybody was in. There was 3 tight ends, and Moss is the only receiver, and he's tightened down. And he's the only one going out in the route. And Darren Sharper was playing safety for the Packers at the time. And Dante just runs a little fake, takes like a 10-yard drop, and he just waits for Randy to run past everybody and throws it as far as he can. I'm like, Jesus, that dude was crazy. But the game has changed a lot. Like I watch Big Ben play from when he first came in the league to what he is doing now. I mean, he used to throw 12 times a game. Now he's throwing it 50 times a game. It's crazy to me.
It's crazy. And that makes it hard as a defensive player. I guess it is. It's fun for this because it seems to be geared towards offense, more points, this kind of stuff. And even as a coach, as a high school coach, now what we used to have for goals, what our goal board looked like is different now. It's not necessarily even about, it used to be if you could hold an X amount running yardage and passing. Now it's really about scoring. We were happy if you could hold them to 17 points, 21.
Yeah.
Now it's not like that, man. Hey, you just got to we're not even putting those type of things on our board. We need to make sure we have enough 3 and outs.
We're just trying to get off the field now any way we can.
Yes, we got to get off the field. How do we flip the field and not really talking about points and stuff anymore? Because they're going to score if they're worth their salt. You really can't, stop anybody.
Well, when I coached in St. Louis, so Ezekiel Elliott was my running back in high school, right? Oh. And then I had Foye Aluakon, who was a receiver. Now he's a linebacker for the Falcons. He went from corner. He played at Yale. Now he's an outside linebacker for the Falcons. So I had these 2 incredible athletes. We only had like 25 kids on my team. But we would play these like wing T teams and all this stuff in the playoffs, and they would hold the ball for like 5 minutes, right? And everybody'd be getting nervous. Oh, no, we're not. And I'm like, look, we're going to score once or twice. They're going to get nervous. They can't catch up because they can't throw it. You know what I mean? Once you get ahead, those teams that never practice that stuff, they can't come back on you.
That's right.
And that's what all we did. I said, don't worry, Zeke's going to get his 2 touchdowns and we'll be fine. That cat was good.
Pretty nice to be able to coach him.
Oh, it's easy to coach with guys like that.
Yes, sir. Toss right, toss left.
Oh, yeah. And then he always tried to tell me he could throw it. I said, Zeke, you cannot throw it. We ran one time where he threw a touchdown to Foye in the end zone. That was it. And we were on the 5-yard line. I'm like, that's all the further you're allowed to throw it because I know you can't throw it all. But it was fun coaching high school football, but it took me a while to learn how to connect with them because, in the NFL, you have a language, you talk a certain way with guys and everybody understands you. And then you get to a kid who's in 10th grade, and he doesn't know anything.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden I told you he has no clue what you're talking about. So I had to learn to adjust, be a little slower, make sure I go into the weeds a lot more with details.
Yes, absolutely. You have to do more, especially now, this age of kids, that there's because a lot of kids are starting to play later.
Right.
So they may not even know how to tackle, hit, proper forms, different things, because, parents may be worried about it or whatnot. And then you got how the kids or the families may not necessarily be playing for your brand. They're trying to position themselves. I hate this part of our game in high school now with the transfers, people moving high schools.
Oh, yeah.
It's tough. I think we talked about that.
And I'm sure you're in Texas, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure in Texas it's even harder. I mean, those kids probably move all the time.
Well, there's a ton of high schools. I mean, the city just north of us, they got 11 high schools, and you can kind of open enrollment, move around if you want to. You live in the city, but
yeah,
so you could be moving around, and it's just tough for us to try to handle certain parts of that, especially when you take away from what we really want to do at this age, mentoring kids, try to help them through the adversities, understanding, and preparing them for life after football or life after high school. Yes, they have their dreams, and they should have their dreams about, being successful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then you have to, like, my first question to my kids was always, do you want to play football after high school? I don't care what level it is. Do you want to? Right? And then if I had kids come up to me, I didn't care who they were. I said, all right, then whatever your level is of what happens in your career, we'll find a place for you to play football. Might be Division III, might be whatever. And if you don't want to, that's cool too. And then that helps you, that helps me. There's no pressure, because sometimes the parents are so bad. Like the kid doesn't want to play, but the parents are like, oh, we got to get him a scholarship. And I'm like, yeah, it's not going to happen.
Don't work like that.
Yeah. So you're there. What do you think that the coach that taught you the most that helps you coach now, like that you learned from? Was it college? Was it, somebody in the NFL? Who taught you, like, where you get your kind of coaching skills? Or was it from your dad from way back when?
Yeah. There's actually, I think I molded myself after a few people. And I'll tell you, one of them is in high school. Was my high school defensive coordinator. His name is Bubba Lewis. Bubba Lewis. He probably had the biggest impact on me early on because he really showed what you were talking about. Hey, where do you want to go to school? What do you want to do? Hey, and so we always talk about off the field stuff, but he really dove into really trying to help me. So that helped me as a coach too, being able to do like what you said.
Right.
That was in high school. In college, I had a couple of really good coaches, but Bill Oliver, who was our defensive coordinator at the University of Alabama, really taught me about film study and how to actually do it the correct way and how to get the statistical stuff and things of that nature. So I try to preach that to kids now on how to watch film. And then in the pros, there's a couple. Mike Zimmer, who's the head coach of the Minnesota Dolphins right now, and Clancy Pendergast.
Yeah, I remember that name.
At the Arizona Cardinals, played with the Cowboys. He's been with USC, Cal. Anyway, all those guys really started to, show me about coaching and how they related to players, even at that level of how you could actually, mentor a 30-year-old.
Right.
Teach them, high-level football. So I still talk to them a lot now.
That's good.
I still talk to Clancy a lot now. I do call when I'm playing them option teams, man, because we're all spread here in Texas. Then we got to play this one option team. I'm like, all right, there's this new veer out now. How do we stop this? And so we're doing this.
Single wings making its return.
That's right.
Well, it's amazing to me that you're doing that. I think that comes from what your mom said. You got to give back, and what a better way. I always say, like, we got our PhD in football, right? I mean, that's what we did for a long time. I don't know how many years you I was in 25 total with going through, when I was young, whole way up through the NFL. It's a lot of years that we spent and a lot of knowledge that we gained. And I always say, like, if I can go and share that with somebody, it feels really good to teach a kid something new that they haven't learned.
Gus, let me tell you this, and you made me think about this. My mom has passed away, okay? But she was getting into football. So I got 6 older brothers, two older sisters. Okay?
Wow.
But I didn't know if I was going to play football or not.
Really?
Actually, and I'll tell you why, because I wanted to be Pele. Remember I
told you
on the German soccer team, and I was really good at it. And so
how many times you practice a bicycle kick?
Oh man, all the time. I think I still got scratch marks on my back. But I'm saying that because when I came to Alabama, it was the first time that I had to make a decision in high school. You couldn't play football and you couldn't play soccer. That was just our rule. So we had to choose. I was smaller at the time. I was about 155 pounds. I thought I was going to be a running back if I played football. Well, all these dudes at Jeff Davis High School, the running backs were 185, 190, 200 pounds. I'm 155. I was like, this ain't going to work, right? So I decided to play soccer, Gus. I did.
Really?
Until I got home and told my folks that. And my mom pulled me aside and said, let's talk about this. And she talked through this and convinced me to go play football and not soccer. And she actually talked me into going into playing defensive back. That's how she got it. So she went
really
through steps of, well, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? So we talked about speed and physicalness. And okay, if you can't beat a running back, you're worried about running a running back, where else can you go? How well do you catch? These are the kind of questions. No. So it all led over to this defensive back thing. She said, so, well, then you need to go out there and you need to go try out for the team as a defensive back. See if that will work for you.
Well, your mom sounds like a heck of a woman, because I don't think, and she must have understood football to see your skill sets to say this is what you should be doing instead of soccer. Yeah, because most moms would be like, soccer is going to be way better. You're not going to get hit as much.
Yeah, and I just think that, so I'm thankful when I talk to people like this about our parents. Oftentimes we as kids don't want to listen to our parents, particularly our moms or whatever it is. And in this case, hey, my mom was right,
Yeah.
A couple of years later, here I am getting a scholarship to the University of Alabama. 4 years later, I'm getting drafted into the National Football League. I don't know what it would have been, if I went down the soccer route. But I know I had some parents, that could guide and talk and say, okay. And so my encouragement to everyone is, hey, man, sometimes our parents, they really do know what the heck they're talking about.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's called life experience. Yes. You know what I mean? They've made your parents especially made a ton of choices and decisions because of all the moves you make. And it's not easy. I can't imagine what it was like for them with all those kids moving all the time. I mean, I kind of know. I mean, we moved a lot, but we only had 3.
Well, yeah, no, it was very difficult. I mean,
and you were probably always the last one. Like, is George here? They're probably always wondering where you were.
Where is he? What's going on? So I'm the one that kind of when you got 6 older brothers, they had to pick on somebody.
Yeah,
that probably helped with some of my toughness, or I know it helped with some of my toughness because you had to catch a bunch of balls being thrown at you, or at least knock them down. I think that's why I became a good defensive back, because I had to find a way to make sure I didn't get hit. So anyway, it was just, I wanted to make sure I shared that because it was, that's a big critical point in my life.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that's as a parent, and I'm sure you've done this with your kids. I've done this with mine. You try to not tell them what to do, but you kind of give your kind of what you see. That's kind of what I feel like she did to you. This is what she saw, and let's sit down and talk about it. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to give you more choices than maybe you think you had.
That's right. That's exactly right. And there were so many experiences, because I did have so many older siblings too, that at that time I wasn't looking at it through that lens. They saw what happened when my brother graduated in Germany.
Yeah.
I have a brother that did graduate overseas. He's fine. He's successful, but he was a very, very good football player. He was awesome, but his career stopped at that point because there's wasn't going to play college, there. Then he couldn't get back in the States to make it on a team. So, wisdom, knowledge of the elderly.
Yeah,
that's my wisdom. I'm showing it right here.
That's
man.
us now. That's us. That's us. Where's JT? Did JT listen to this? He should be listening to this.
Yes, JT is an old soul.
Is he?
He does help me with our podcast and things of that nature. He is way more mature at his age than I could ever imagine him to be. I do have a daughter who's 21. You didn't get a chance to meet her. She just graduated from UT San Antonio.
Oh wow!
Cool. She'll be in media as well.
So it's she's going to come in at some point on Teague's Take.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
She's good behind the door.
She's good. But she's going to be the one running the show pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, George, you played in the NFL for a long time. You played with some incredible people like I have. What's your favorite memory of your time playing in the NFL? What's the one thing, like if somebody like I'm asking you now, what is your memory that you go to that you say, this is what I kind of think of when I think of my career?
I think I go early into my career because I had the opportunity to play with Reggie White, and he showed me a different side of, I want to say football players, I guess, being a minister. That he brought a dynamic into that locker room, that he was so tenacious. And, when you're talking about he's hip tossing all these kind of people, and then he could come back in and come to my house and literally start talking to me about financial growth, how to be a good man, introducing me to people and my family, my wife, and had a newborn that, when he walked into my house, someone I did not know went to there, and he's like, man, Teague, I need to talk to you, man. I need to get you on the right path. That I always go back to. That's not a play. I've had some plays, hitting Terrell and doing those things. I talk about that all the time. But with that part of my early part of my career and having someone really try to pull you aside and say, hey, man, take care of your business this way and you can be successful, that helped me a bunch because it carried me when I had adversity. When I did get traded from Green Bay, get cut from the Falcons.
It's so true though. Like coaches aren't talking to you about that stuff. General managers aren't talking to you. There's people they bring in to talk. Like the guy, the team has like staff to help the players and all that. But it's people that have been there that are veterans that kind of show you the path and what you should be doing. And just know that, like, dude, your money can be gone in an instant if you don't take care of it. You know what I mean? Like, and then you need to have, because it's about your career isn't long. When we're 20, we think we're going to play forever. And all of a sudden we're in our 30s and we're like, how much longer do I got?
It's over.
Yeah, it's over. But no, I love that. I played with Reggie in a Pro Bowl, and it was like every time he sat in a bus, I just tried to sit by him, because I know we were on the same team, so he wasn't going to hit me. I was pretty happy about that.
I cannot imagine being a quarterback, boss. I commend you for that, and all the quarterbacks who do that. But that rush getting at y'all, and they're telling you stand in there and take the hit and throw the ball.
Well,
over here on defense, boss.
What's his name? Who was the defensive tackle for you guys at Dallas? Big Cat?
Yes, Leon
Lett. So Trey Johnson short sets him. Trey Johnson was our left guard, big dude. Leon just swiped him across like this, like he was not even there. And I just remember, I still talk about this. He's running directly at me with his hands up in the air. He had to be 10 feet tall doing that. And I think I threw it to like the back, but it was incomplete or something, and then he hit me. And Norv goes, the guy was wide open. Why didn't you throw it to him? And I stopped the film and I said, do you see who's like running at me? Like, you need to tell the receiver to get open faster. That dude's massive.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
So it was some good times, but it is tough sometimes. Right. So, George, tell all of our fans, everybody, what you're doing now and how they can follow you.
Yeah, so I am a high school football coach at John Paul II High School in Plano, Texas. But I do have my own podcast. It's called Teague's Take, me and my son. And Instagram at Teague Football, both on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow the podcast at Teague's Take Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So we do that. We have guests on. We really enjoy it. We're been a full year into it now. So we're calling this the next
series. This is season 2, right?
This is season 2
coming up. Was I the last guy on season 1?
You
or
were
first guy on season 2?
No, you're the last one. So we're switching. We're going to start up.
Yeah,
in July.
You guys finished in style. I like it.
No, we always say the best for last, buddy.
Yeah. I loved it. It was good. It was. We had a great time. I love how you do it, and I love that you have your son on there. That was a great thing. You know, you guys have a good command. He does seem like an old soul, JT.
Yeah, he is. And thank you for having me on, man, for inviting me to come be a part of this too. I do appreciate it very much, and we'll catch up again.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, George. And maybe next time I'm gonna wear my little Washington football team hat, and I'll wear my Washington gear so that we can kind of match up.
Well, what I'm going to tell you, what we're going to do for the fans right now is whatnot. But we're going to do something between when the Redskins play the Cowboys.
We can also do Minnesota and Green Bay too.
All right, there you go. So we'll think outside the box, and we'll do something fun.
All right, buddy. All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Huddle Up with Gus. I want to thank my guest today, George Teague. Check him out on his podcast, Teague's Take Podcast, and you can follow him on Twitter at Teague Football. So I really appreciate everyone listening. Don't forget to submit your questions to me. Any questions you have about the NFL or other sports. So Jacob Julius was our guy this week. Jake, hey, buddy, thanks for submitting your question. Please go to my website, huddleupwithgus.com, and subscribe and like. And we really appreciate everyone listening. And don't forget to go to Vegas Sports Advantage, put in my code HUDDLEUP, and save 25% when you bet now. So thanks, 1631 Digital News. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Terry. And thanks, Sounder FM. And thank you, George, for joining me on Huddle Up with Gus.
And that's a wrap, sports fans. Thanks for joining in the fun at the 1631 Digital Studios for another action-packed Huddle Up with Gus, featuring 15-year NFL quarterback Gus Frerotte. Huddle Up with Gus is proudly produced by 1631 Digital Media and is available on Apple Music.